Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, imagine this. A literary form that's, well, part stand-up comedy, part deep philosophy, and part just incredible wordplay.
Yeah.
All packed into one short story.
Sounds intriguing already.
Right. That's what we're exploring today. We're diving deep into the Maqama. It's this really original, stylistically super demanding genre from Islamic Golden Age.
Yeah, fascinating period.
Exactly. And we've got some really rich material to look at how it grew from, oral traditions into the sophisticated written thing and its influence, which actually went surprisingly far.
It really did.
So our mission today is to sort of unpack the cleverness behind it all, meet the very cunning characters, and get why it's so important. Think of it as a shortcut, really, to getting informed about a piece of world literature you might not know yet.
Absolutely. And, the Maqama, it's so much more than just stories. It's like a sociocultural document, really. It reflects the whole intellectual, social, aesthetic vibe of the...
Snapshot of the era.
Precisely. And I think the key thing, the central idea maybe, is how it took this popular oral thing and turned it into this virtuosic written culture. And that had a huge lasting impact. It's this amazing mix of fun and, well, serious intellectual stuff.
Okay, so let's unpack that, starting right at the beginning. The word itself, maqam or maqam, where does that come from? It's not what you might guess.
Right, it's got quite a history.
Yeah, so maqam originally just meant place or spot, like literally a physical place where a tribal assembly might meet way back in pre-Islamic times.
A gathering point.
Exactly. But then over centuries, the meaning started to shift. It began referring to public speeches, sermons. Then by maybe the 9th century, it was used for addresses by statesmen in, the caliph's palace.
So moving into more formal setting.
Right. And then, this is the surprising bit, by the 10th century, people started using it for the eloquent speeches of beggars.
Ah, there's the twist.
Yeah. So when we translate it today as assemblies or sessions, it's really talking about these gatherings, these rhetorical moments where speeches happen, whether they were, high status or low status.
And that journey in meaning, it really tells you something crucial, doesn't it? It wasn't just random linguistic drift. It feels like a very conscious, strategic move by the literary form itself.
What do you mean strategic?
Well, the literary Maqama, it basically took the low oral practice. You mentioned the beggars, the impoverished but eloquent Shelm, this kind of witty trickster, and deliberately lifted it into the high art of court literature.
Ah, I see. Elevating the lowbrow.
Exactly. And that tension right there between the sophisticated writing and the often broke protagonist, that's key to the genre's irony. It's deeply tied to its time, too. We're talking 10th century Islamic Golden Age, Baghdad, a real hub for scholars, philosophers, writers.
A vibrant scene.
Totally vibrant. But alongside all that cultural flourishing, there was also this socioeconomic decay happening within the caliphate. And this created a new class of people, educated, smart, but poor, intellectuals, wandering artists. They had to use their wits, their words, to get by.
The eloquent beggars you mentioned earlier.
They were the direct inspiration.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can definitely see the Maqama as a literary response to that crisis. It's been called a dramatic, picaresque self-staging of a penniless language artist. It just perfectly captures that gap between, having intellectual smarts and no actual money.
That really puts it in context, a literary response to a social problem. So how did they actually do it? How did these writers craft the stories to get that mix of, comedy and social critique? What's the formula?
Right, the artistry. It's brilliant, really. So each Maqama is its own little fictional story, self-contained, but they follow this recurring pattern. You've got a narrator, always the same guy, almost like a character in a TV show who keeps showing up. And he's always bumping into this incredibly cunning protagonist in different cities.
The Shelm, the trickster.
That's him. And he's always in disguise using just unbelievable eloquence, verbal fireworks to get money or food.
Right.
And the stories usually end with the protagonist getting recognized, somehow justifying what he did with some clever argument, and then poof, he disappears again, ready for the next story.
And what really makes this genre pop, isn't it how it played with its oral roots? You mentioned that double narrative, the narrator telling us what he saw or heard.
Yes, that's crucial.
And that opening phrase, the story was told to me by... It sounds exactly like the Isnot.
Exactly like it.
Which, for listeners back then, was the super rigorous chain of names they used to prove hadiths, sayings of the prophet, or even old poems were authentic.
A mark of truth.
So using that structure for fiction, it's like citing serious scholars to back up a tall tale. It adds these amazing layers of irony, makes you think about storytelling itself.
Absolutely. And the language.
Yeah.
Oh, the linguistic virtuosity is just central. The main stylistic tool is SAJ. That's rhymed prose.
Rhymed prose, like Dr. Seuss.
Well, much more sophisticated. It's not just simple end rhymes. It's this elaborate rhyming and rhythmic structure within the prose itself. And then woven into that, you get poetry, actual verses. So it's prosimetrum, that mix of prose and verse.
Oh, hey, fancy.
It is. It's a total masterpiece of linguistic, well, acrobatics, a real show of rhetorical skill. But here's the audacious part, the subversion you hinted at.
Yeah.
Historically, Saj was linked really strongly with truth, with religious revelation. Think of the early Quran. It had that gravitas.
Right, it sounded important, authoritative.
Exactly. But the Maqama, it flips that completely. It uses this incredibly eloquent, high-status rhymed prose for the Skelm's lies, for his deceptions, his tricks.
Wow.
That irony, that deliberate misuse, you could say, that's the heart of the genre. It proves that style, language itself, has its own aesthetic power, its own entertainment value, separate from whether the content is true or good.
So it's a game with language itself?
A profound intellectual game.
Yeah.
Showing how even the most respected forms could be used to build up or tear down truth. It really challenged the audience to look past the surface and remember who this was for. An intellectual crowd, usually discussed in these literary circles, these majalis.
Like intellectual salons.
Pretty much. And the goal was twofold. Entertain, yes, but also educate. The Shelm, he holds up a mirror to society, exposing hypocrisy, problems, making the audience think critically. So you get these deep moral insights, but always balanced with humor.
So they're using this almost sacred language style for witty lies and social digs. Did anyone get upset about that? Or was the cleverness just too dazzling? It feels pretty bold.
It was bold. And it definitely played on the audience's sophistication. I wouldn't say there was a huge backlash like condemnation. People recognized it as this incredibly clever, often very funny manipulation of tradition.
They were in on the joke.
Exactly. The audience was smart. They appreciated the wordplay, the skill, the subtle critique. They understood the ironic game. That dazzling wit you mentioned, it definitely helped smooth things over.
Makes sense. Okay, let's meet the maestros then. The big names. You mentioned two giants. Badiʿ al-Zaman al-Hamadhani. He's the inventor, right?
That's the one.
And Abu Muhammad al-Hariri, the completer.
Huh.
So tell us about al-Hamadhani first. Lived around 969 to 1008.
Correct. He's credited with actually inventing the genre as we know it, the first to really use ashar for these kinds of episodic fictional stories. He wrote about 52 of them. His narrator was Isa b. Hesham, and the Shelm, the star, was Abu al-Fath al-Iskandari.
Abu al-Fath, what was he like?
Oh, Abu al-Fath is a classic, described as clever, enterprising, impudent, and carefree. A vagabond, basically, who's always changing jobs, if you can call them jobs.
Yeah.
Using cunning, sometimes outright fraud, to survive.
Master of disguise.
Absolutely. You might find him posing as an orator, dressed as a warrior, a magician, a beggar, a scribe in the market, an imam, a wandering holy man. You name it.
Versatile.
Totally. But what really stands out is his attitude, his cheerfulness, his adaptability. There's a famous line attributed to him when things get tough. Fate is a false phantom. Spin, turn as it turns.
I like that. Roll with the punches.
Exactly. It's that spirit of resilience and wit that really defines Hamadani's creation and the genre itself.
Okay, and then comes al-Hariri, who takes it to another level.
Precisely. Al-Hariri, living 1054 to 1122. He was a philologist, a language expert, and a poet from Basra. He's known as the Volander, the perfecter, the one who completed the form. His collection of 50 stories, the Maqāmāt al-Haririya, basically set the gold standard.
Canonized it.
Yes, and it even became a textbook for rhetoric.
Yeah.
Generations of scholars learned from it. He firmed up the characters. His narrator is al-Harith ibn Hammam, and the protagonist is Abu Zayd al-Saruji.
And how did his work differ from Hamadani's?
Hariri's maqāmāt are famous for just incredibly demanding language.
Yeah.
Like rhetorically virtuosic to the extreme. Unlike Hamadani, he put poetry into every single story, really amping up that procedure mass aspect.
Yeah.
And being a philologist, he was consciously pushing the boundaries of Arabic, testing its limits with amazing technical skill, linguistic games. He even used palindromes.
Palindromes in prose.
Yes, stuff that reads the same forwards and backwards, just showing off really, but brilliantly.
Okay, impressive. And his protagonist, Abu Zayd.
Abu Zayd is maybe a bit more complex. He mixes cunning and kindness, shamelessness and magnanimity. And he really values his freedom. There's a great quote from him. To remain poor and move from one country to another is, in my eyes, preferable to a position whose occupation involves
A
inconvenience.
free spirit.
Definitely. And interestingly, Hariri's narrator, al-Hariri, shows a lot of sympathy for Abu Zayd. He seems to admire his ingenuity, his resourcefulness, even while recognizing the trickery.
So, connecting the dots. Hamadhani is the innovator, the spark.
He's the visionary creator, yeah.
Mhm.
Laid the whole groundwork. And Hariri, he's the master technician, the systematizer, the philologist who polished it to perfection, making it the standard for Arabic prose for ages.
It's amazing how something so specific, so technical almost, could have such a lasting impact. So, what is the legacy? Where did the Maqama's influence ripple out to?
Oh, it's huge, much wider than you might think. For starters, it's often seen as a kind of pre-romance genre and definitely a major precursor to the Spanish picaresque novel.
Because of the trickster hero.
Exactly. That resourceful Shelm character surviving by wit in a tough world, constantly adapting that blueprint is there. The Maqama was exploring social mobility, resistance, survival through smarts, themes that traveled well.
And did it stay influential within Arabic literature too?
Absolutely. Much later in the 19th century, during the Nahda, the Arab Renaissance, writers actually looked back to the Maqama as a model when they were trying to create new literary forms. It directly fed into the development of the modern Arabic novel and short story.
Wow. And beyond Arabic.
Yeah, its popularity led to straight-up imitation in other languages. Hebrew literature really picked it up. They called the form the Mabare. There was a poet, Rabbi Judah al-Hariri, who not only translated Hariri's Maqamat into Hebrew, but then wrote his own collection, the Takamoni.
Fascinating.
It also popped up in Syriac Christian traditions. And here's something really cool. The Maqama apparently provided the scripts, the actual text, for medieval Arabic shadow plays.
Shadow plays. Seriously.
Yeah, Chayal Azil. If you look at illustrated manuscripts of the Maqamat, some of the figures drawn look remarkably like shadow puppets. It suggests this hidden, or maybe not so hidden, performative side. These weren't just meant to be read quietly. They were performed out loud to audiences. Imagine how the drama and humor would land.
That totally changes how you think about it. Performance art, basically. And this influence reached Europe too.
It did, particularly in the German-speaking world, thanks largely to Friedrich Rückert. He lived 1788 to 1866. A huge figure in German Orientalism, a real pioneer in translation.
Okay.
His whole philosophy wasn't just about word-for-word accuracy. He wanted to capture the soul of the verses, mixing scientific precision with real poetic feeling to bring these works alive for Europeans.
A true translation artist.
Definitely. And he did this amazing, free, poetic reinterpretation of al-Hariri's Maqamat, Die Verwandlungen des Abu Zayd von Serug, or The Transformations of Abu Zayd of Serug, published in 1837. It really emphasized how the hero changed identity through his mastery of language. It wasn't just a translation, it was a recreation that really clicked.
And that stuck around.
Yeah, its relevance kept going. Even in the 20th century, you find writers like Friedrich Rückert putting things called maqāms into their own work. Shows its lasting appeal, its influence even on modern literature.
Okay, so the Maqama gave us this picture of survival through intellect, through wit. But you mentioned this was a vibrant time generally. Were there other big literary forms emerging that showed different kinds of heroes, different kinds of power?
Absolutely. While Maqama was doing its thing, another really dynamic form was taking shape, celebrating something quite different bravery, a more maybe primal sense of honor.
Tell me more.
We need to shift focus a bit, from the witty marketplace trickster to the epic desert hero. We're still roughly in the same period, maybe leaning into the 11th, 12th centuries, the era of the Crusades, lots of cultural mixing, Muslim communities consolidating, and out of this comes the heroic romantic epic. People sometimes call them folk novels, or even pulp novels.
Okay, some more popular literature.
Yeah, very much so. This is the Sirat genre, usually anonymous authors, mostly prose, but sometimes with rhyme bits or verse thrown in. These stories were the bread and butter for popular storytellers, the folk reciters. They'd weave together old epics, city-based novellas, fairy tales, and they were seen as distinct from the fancy, formal poetry of the courts.
And the most famous example?
Has to be Sirat Antar.
Nice.
It's massive, like 32 volumes, all about Antar, this legendary Bedouin poet and warrior from way back in pre-Islamic times.
A Bedouin poet-warrior.
Yeah.
Intriguing mix. So how does Antar stack up against the Maqama's Shelm? What's his story tell us?
Well, it's a totally different vibe. Antar's story is huge, epic. It's about his love for his cousin Abla, His struggle as a slave, he was the son of a black slave woman and an Arab chieftain, his journey to becoming a respected leader, winning Abla's hand through just countless heroic battles and adventures.
Sounds grand.
Oh, it is. His adventures take him all over Iran, Byzantium, even into the lands of the Franks, the Crusaders. Now, European critics back in the day often labeled it a chivalric romance.
Why? Because of knights and stuff?
Sort of. There are definitely scenes of gallantry, Antar acting like a proper Ferris. That's the Arabic word for a knight or horseman defending the weak, especially women. Knightly principles seem to be there, but it's important not to just slap a European label on it.
Yeah.
Those courtly bits, they're arguably quite superficial, almost like a costume put on the story later. At his absolute core, Antar is a Bedouin hero.
Meaning what, exactly?
Meaning he's huge, physically powerful, incredibly brave, recklessly so, sometimes furious in battle, but also quite straightforward, trusting.
He embodies this epic fullness and versatility of character that you find in really old tribal epics. It's very different from the kind of focused, maybe one-sided pathos of service you get in later European chivalry.
So less about courtly manners, more about raw power and tribal honor.
Exactly. He's a powerful counterpoint to the Maqama's intellectual trickster. Antar represents a more primal, direct form of heroism, fighting for honor, justice, love, his tribe. It's another way of surviving and making your mark, just through different means. Strength and honor versus wit and words.
Wow, what an incredible tour through medieval Arabic literature we've had today. We started with the Maqama, this amazing hybrid bridging oral and written, a masterclass in language and social critique, and with this surprisingly global reach. Yeah, the clever trickster.
And then we met Serat Antar, a completely different beast, but just as powerful, this huge popular epic celebrating a more raw, fundamental kind of heroism.
The mighty warrior.
It really shows you, doesn't it, how different societies, different moments, find different ways to tell stories about their values, their flaws, their heroes, and their anti-heroes too, all through the power of storytelling.
It really does. And maybe it leaves us with a final thought to chew on. You've got the cunning, adaptable skelm of the Maqama, surviving by his wits, and then the mighty, ethical warrior of Serat Antar, fighting for honor and love. Do you see any common threads there?
Between the trickster and the warrior.
Yeah. Maybe, in their own ways, they both represent this deep desire for autonomy, for integrity when facing tough times. The Skelm uses his brain to stay free. Antar uses his strength and his code of honor.
That's interesting. Two paths to staying true to oneself in a complex world.
Perhaps. So how does that ancient tension, between cleverness and strength, wit and might play out in the stories we tell ourselves today about getting through challenges, navigating our complex societies? What new transformations, like Abu Zaid's, are maybe waiting to be written now?